What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the full launch of Star Wars Hunters, why we haven't heard about it just yet, and also a little bit of a prediction as to when I think it could happen. I'm sure most of you guys who are watching this will know that the game is currently in soft launch, and it did launch in about the middle of November last year, so it has been quite a while now since we've actually been able to play the game, yet we've really not heard anything about the actual proper launch of the game, so there's plenty to go through there, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There's going to be plenty of Star Wars Hunters and LEGO Star Wars content on the way in 2022, so definitely make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now anyway, like I said, obviously the game has been in full launch since I think it was around the middle to end of November, and although it's been a lot of fun and a lot of people are really enjoying the game so far, I think we are all eagerly awaiting the actual full launch of the game, because obviously currently not everyone can play the game, and then on top of that, obviously we're all hoping that the full launch happens so that the game is a little bit more optimized and there's possibly a little bit more content, as well as being able to play it on the Switch, which is something that a lot of us are really keen to do. Despite that soft launch though, it has been very quiet. Pretty much since they did the soft launch, there has been one single update in that time, and so there really hasn't been anything extra to be excited about for the player base. Now, to be fair, they did release that first update only a few weeks after the soft launch began, and then pretty much the week or so after that was around the time that Christmas time was happening, and obviously the developers wouldn't be at work during that time. So personally, I don't think it's anything to worry about that we've only had one update. To be completely honest, I wasn't really expecting any updates between the soft launch and the full launch, but either way, it has still been very quiet, and I think the small player base and the small community that the game has currently built is starting to get a little bit antsy and a little bit worried about what is going on with the game. Now, they mentioned back in the previous investor call for the game that Q1 of 2022 is when the full launch was expected, and Q1 is essentially between January and March of this year. So if they are still sticking to that, obviously it could have been delayed, but I don't think that would be the case. If they are still sticking to the Q1 sort of launch date, that essentially means that within the next 2 months the full launch should be happening, which is obviously very exciting, but that also just adds even more questions as to why we haven't really heard anything about the game, considering it's probably launching within the next month or two. Now, even though I just mentioned that the game probably isn't delayed, that doesn't mean that it definitely isn't delayed. There is obviously a chance that it has been delayed due to possibly just being COVID, or obviously things just could be taking longer than they expected them to. So a delay is definitely possible, but I just don't think that they would actually get to the point where they're in a soft launch and then feel the need to delay the game even further. Usually by the time a development team is at the stage of soft launch, the game is, all but done. They're sort of just tying up the loose ends and improving it just a little bit more before the full launch, and using that soft launch to just sort of gather data and just sort of see how the game goes. So the fact that we made it to the soft launch does make it feel like a delay is probably unlikely, but like I said, it could definitely be on the cards. We will just have to wait and see. Now, luckily for us, there is actually an investor call from Zynga on February 9th, and although most investor calls are, mostly just to do with the money side of things, they're pretty boring to listen to. They can often include some pretty, useful info and some interesting news about the game when they are this close to launch. So there is a chance that on the actual investor call they could sort of announce the full launch, or even just hint towards when that could be. Like I said, I'm fairly sure in the previous investor call they actually mentioned that the soft launch was going to be happening, so there is definitely a chance that on February 9th we do hear maybe the full launch date, or even just, like I said, maybe the month or some sort of rough estimate as to when that could be. Or like I said, if the game actually has been delayed or something, they probably will mention that in the investor call. So Feb 9th is going to be a pretty big day for Star Wars Hunters. I'd imagine it will definitely get a mention in that investor call. From what I've heard, Zynga is actually going all in on Star Wars Hunters, so I'd imagine Star Wars Hunters is probably one of their biggest games, and that does mean that it will probably end up getting some sort of mention in the investor call. Now, on top of that too, they could even mention the actual launch date before the investor call happens. For those who don't really know what the investor calls are for, these are for essentially just giving information to the investors of the company. Zynga is a publicly traded company, so the investor call is essentially just something where they talk about their profits and try and essentially show off to their investors that the company is worth investing in and that they're going to get their money back and stuff like that. So a lot of the time, these sort of companies can actually do, announcements and stuff like that before an investor call happens to kind of boost the excitement around that company, and then when they can actually talk about that in the investor call, obviously that's going to make Zynga look even better than they currently are. So there is a small chance that we could get some sort of news before the investor call to sort of just show a little bit of hype around Star Wars Hunters, and then when they get on that call with the investors, they can sort of use those metrics and say, oh, look at this, we got 1 million views on the first day of the trailer or something like that. So yeah, there is a chance we get some news before that, but I personally think that is probably a little bit unlikely considering it is only a week or so away. But again, again, we are just going to have to wait and see. Now, despite the fact that I said I don't think the game is likely going to be delayed, or even I've heard a few rumours, or not rumours, but I guess speculation that, you know, it's been so quiet, maybe the game's going to be cancelled. Personally, I don't think any of that is true. However, if we do get to the investor call on Feb 9th and we haven't heard anything prior to that, as well as not hearing anything about Star Wars Hunters in the investor call, then personally I do think that will be a bit of a worrying sign. I think we essentially need to hear something at least before or on Feb 9th to sort of put our worries at ease. But yeah, if we don't hear anything at all in the investor call about Star Wars Hunters, then I think I will start to get a little bit worried. Like I said, this does seem to be one of their biggest games at the moment, at least in terms of the hype around it compared to, you know, all the other stuff they're working on or that is currently out already. And so yeah, no mention of this game at the investor call would definitely be a little bit worrying, and we're going to have to wait and see how that goes. I will be making a video as soon as that investor call happens. I'm going to try and listen in myself, and then if we do, or even if we don't get any news, I'll probably make a video on the day about that. So for any news about Star Wars Hunters, you guys can expect to hear that right here on the channel. So like I said before, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that content. Now lastly, I just guess for my own little prediction, or I guess it's really just a guess because I have no idea when this actually is going to launch. My guess for the full launch is that I personally think it will happen in maybe early March to maybe mid-March. Feb is definitely a decent enough chance. Obviously with that investor call there, they could launch the game a week or so after that actually happens. So Feb is definitely a chance, but just the fact that we haven't really heard anything at the moment, it does seem like they are still a little bit away from the full launch of the game. So yeah, my prediction would be probably early to mid-March. I don't think they're going to push it any further than March because they did say Q1, and if they do push it further than that, then that means the game has probably been delayed a little bit. So my expectations are, yeah, early to mid-March, but like I said, it could definitely launch in Feb as well, and Feb 9th is going to be a very big day for hearing news about when that could be. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. I just wanted to keep you guys a little bit informed on what's going on. That investor call is obviously a big day, like I said, so I wanted to talk about that just a little bit, and also just address some of the concerns I've seen around the community, around the possibility of a delay or even a cancellation. But regardless of my thoughts, I'm definitely keen to hear your thoughts as well, so feel free to let us know down in the comments when you think the game will launch and why you think it's been so quiet so far. For me personally, I'm not too worried about the sort of quiet nature of the game. It is in soft launch, and a lot of the time with soft launches they don't really do that much communication, but I am keen to hear if you guys are a little bit worried. So be sure to leave a comment down below with your thoughts about the launch of Star Wars Hunters. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and like I said, if you guys do want to keep up to date with all Star Wars Hunters news, then be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications, as I'll be pumping out content on the game all the way through 2022. If you want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then do consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. The links to that are down in the description. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there in the arena.